Have you ever imagined what your life would be like if you had been born in a different place? We often think, man, if I were an heir, if my parents were rich, if I had been born in country X. But what if I told you that there is a man who was born in an extremely poor place, was sold into slavery and was sent to a country and a culture completely different from the one he was born into, but even so, he broke all the statistics of the time and became one of the most respected samurai of the Sengoku period. His name, Yasuke, the Black Samurai. But before I tell you this story of discipline and overcoming adversity, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss future content. It only takes 5 seconds, and you'll help this content reach more people. Thank you very much, Now back to the video. Japan 1579. A country so closed it executed foreigners simply for setting foot on its beaches, a place where your family lineage determined whether you were worthy to live or die, where the color of your skin could be an instant death sentence. In this scene, a black man nearly 2 meters tall walks the streets of Kyoto, not as a prisoner or slave, but carrying 2 swords at his waist, the ultimate symbol of the Japanese warrior elite. People stopped in the middle of the street. Some knelt in reverence, others whispered in panic, "Oni," which means demon. But this man was no demon. He was something far more dangerous to the system of the time. He was living proof that origin does not determine destiny. His name was Yasuke. But how did this happen? How did a slave become a member of the world's most closed-off elite? That's what we're going to explain now. Chapter 1. The Journey of the Impossible. The story begins in the worst possible way, on the coast of East Africa, probably Mozambique. A young man is torn from his land, his family, his identity, sold as merchandise, chained in the hold of a slave ship, intended to be owned for life. This young man would become Yasuke, but that wasn't even his real name. His real name died along with his freedom on that ship. During months of brutal sea crossing, while other slaves fell ill, went mad, or died, something extraordinary was happening to this young African man. He was watching, studying, memorizing every movement of the sailors, every word in Portuguese, every gesture of the merchants. Do you know what Yasuke's first act of discipline was? It wasn't physical. It was mental. While others gave in to despair, he chose to use suffering as a university. He arrived in Japan as the property of Jesuit missionary Alessandro Valignano, just another servant in a country that despised foreigners. But Yasuke had a plan that even he didn't know about yet. Do you know the difference between an ordinary person and an extraordinary person? An ordinary person sees obstacles and gives up. An extraordinary person sees obstacles and becomes a strategist. Yasuke was about to become the greatest strategist of his own life, and what happened next would change not only his life, but the history of Japan forever. Chapter 2. The Meeting That Changed History. Yasuke set foot on Japanese soil as a missionary's most exotic possession. In a country where being different was dangerous, he was different in every possible way. Height almost 2 meters in a country where the average height was 1.50 meters. Skin color, black in a homogeneously Asian society. Status, slave in a culture obsessed with hierarchy. Everything conspired against him, but Yasuke did something no one expected. Instead of hiding, he stood out even more. He learned Japanese at an astonishing speed. Not just basic words, he mastered cultural nuances that Japanese people took decades to grasp. He studied Bushido, the warrior code, even though he didn't have the right to it. He trained combat moves in secret, even without weapons. And then the impossible happened. Oda Nobunaga, Japan's most feared daimyo, the man who unified the country through brute force, heard of the giant black Oni who served the Jesuits. The normal reaction would be to kill or expel him. Nobunaga did the opposite. He had it brought. Do you know why? Because truly powerful men recognize potential no matter where it comes from. And Yasuke was about to prove that he had something far more valuable than a lineage of emperors. He had unshakable discipline. But what happened at that first encounter was so absurd that historians doubted for centuries whether it was real. Chapter 3. The Radical Transformation. Nobunaga's Palace, the most important hall in Japan, All eyes were fixed on the black giant who walked among the samurai elite as if he belonged there. Nobunaga watched him with scientific curiosity. He tested Yasuke's strength. He questioned his intelligence. He challenged his courage. And do you know what Yasuke's reaction was? He didn't bow more than necessary. He didn't beg for mercy. He maintained his dignity even while being analyzed like an exotic animal. Nobunaga was impressed, not just by their physical strength. Anyone could be strong. He was impressed by their mental presence. Yasuke had understood something that most people never understand. Respect is not asked for. It is earned through competence. Within weeks, Nobunaga made a decision that shocked all of Japan. He gave Yasuke land, a house, weapons, and the title of samurai. A slave became a member of the most closed warrior elite in the world. But that wasn't benevolence, it was recognition. Many may think how lucky he was, but we need to understand one thing. Nobunaga was not known for his kindness. He was known for his brutal efficiency. He only invested in those who could return value. And Yasuke returned valor through a discipline that impressed even warriors born into the samurai tradition. Chapter 4. The Samurai Code. Yasuke didn't just receive the title of samurai, he became the samurai. He mastered kenjutsu, the art of the sword, with obsessive dedication. He memorized complex military strategies. He learned tea ceremonies, calligraphy, poetry, all aspects of warrior culture. Do you know how many hours a day he dedicated to training? 12 to 14 hours, every day without exception. We often want to achieve incredible goals by dedicating just 1 to 2 hours a day. Don't get me wrong, if those 2 hours are all you have, don't worry. Keep giving it your best. The problem is when we have the opportunity to dedicate much more of our time and energy, but we become lazy and make excuses for not doing what needs to be done. While many complain, Yasuke was rewriting his reality through pure discipline. And it worked. In battle, Yasuke fought alongside Nobunaga. He protected the most powerful man in the country. He commanded troops who respected him not for the color of their skin, but for their demonstrated competence. He had become more Japanese than many Japanese, more samurai than warriors of samurai lineage. But the true test of his transformation came at the darkest possible moment. A historian specializing in feudal Japan at Kyoto University published a fascinating analysis of Yasuke. What is most striking is not that he became a samurai while being African, but the speed with which he mastered cultural codes that had been passed down through generations. This indicates extraordinary adaptive intelligence and personal discipline. Another researcher at the University of Tokyo, with more than 25 years studying the Sengoku period, stated, Yasuke represents something unique in Japanese history, pure meritocracy overcoming the caste system. His acceptance by Nobunaga was not a cultural exception, it was recognition of real worth. In other words, experts confirm, it wasn't luck. It was competence built through systematic discipline. Chapter 5. The Discipline That Conquers All, June 21, 1582. The day that would test everything Yasuke had built. Akechi Mitsuhide, one of Nobunaga's generals, decided to betray his master. He surrounded the Honnoji temple where Nobunaga was staying. It was a deadly ambush. Yasuke had two options: flee and save his own life, or stay and die with his lord. Guess what he chose? He fought until the last second. When Nobunaga committed seppuku to avoid capture, Yasuke continued fighting to protect Nobunari, his master's son. He was captured only when it became physically impossible to continue resisting. And do you know what Akechi Mitsuhide said about Yasuke after capturing him? That he wouldn't kill him because he wasn't really Japanese and didn't understand the implications of his actions. The irony is brutal. Mitsuhide was afraid to execute Yasuke, afraid of creating a martyr, because Yasuke had become so respected that killing him would be politically dangerous. A former slave had become politically untouchable through discipline. How many people do you know who have achieved this? Completely transform not only their social standing, but also others' perception of their capabilities. And here we come to the most important part of the story. What does this mean for you today? Yasuke disappeared from historical records after 1582. No one knows exactly what happened to him. Some say he returned to Africa. Others say he became a ronin, a masterless samurai. But do you know what the most interesting theory from a Harvard University anthropologist is? That Yasuke may have founded his own martial arts school, transmitting African techniques adapted to Japanese Bushido. Imagine, a man who started out as a slave, potentially influencing generations of Japanese warriors. This is the power of discipline taken to the extreme. Chapter 6. Lessons for today. Now comes the important question. What does Yasuke's story teach us about your life today? Lesson 1. Disciplined adaptability. Yasuke didn't remain stuck in what he was. He molded himself into what he needed to be. This isn't a betrayal of his own identity, it's a strategic evolution. If you want to grow, you need to learn the codes of the environment you want to reach. Language, networking, technical skills, even dress code. Yasuke did this in the 16th century without the internet. You have fewer excuses. Lesson 2. Presence over provenance. Nobunaga was interested in what Yasuke could do, not where he came from. Competence speaks louder than biography. Stop starting conversations by explaining your limitations. I'm not trained, but I'm no expert, but Yasuke never apologized for existing. Lesson 3. Invisible discipline. The world saw only the result, a black samurai. Few saw the 14 hours a day of training, studying, and cultural adaptation. Success isn't an event, it's a system. Build daily routines for improvement, even when no one's looking. Especially when no one's looking. If Yasuke managed to become a samurai in feudal Japan as an African slave, what is his excuse for not achieving his goals in the 21st century? But there is one final lesson that can change your life today. Yasuke's most powerful lesson isn't about samurai or feudal Japan. It's about a universal truth. Discipline transforms any origin into any destiny. Yasuke taught us that the universe doesn't care about your history. It cares about your discipline. It doesn't matter if you were born rich or poor, white or black, male or female, in the countryside or the capital. What matters is your willingness to discipline yourself toward what you want to become. 5 years from now, do you want to be remembered as someone who came from a difficult background, or as someone who used discipline to completely rewrite their story? The choice is yours. The time is now. I know there's a lot of injustice in the world, but complaining won't change the world. We need to adapt and overcome. If you liked this video, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss future videos. And leave a comment below to help the channel's engagement. It could even be a cake recipe. Just kidding. I also invite you to watch this video that is appearing on your screen, in which we talk about how to reach the most frightening level of discipline. Remember, discipline is not punishment, it's freedom. Thank you very much for your attention. See you in the next video.